Okay. I sent out this email, so I'll answer some questions, and I got a lot of replies from all around the world. So I'm going to try my best to answer. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a couple of pages of questions. So I'm just going to go bang straight into it. And some of the people that ask questions aren't on the call, so I said I'd record it. I'm not quite sure where I'm putting the recording and everything, but if at any time you've got other questions that you haven't already sent to me, put it in the chat box and I'll just try and get through all of them. So I'm just going to start in no particular order. And as I said, if you've got a question put in the chat box, I might just start with yours. Do you need the Maremma dogs as well as locking up the chickens at night? I don't have names next to the question, so sorry if it was your question and I can't acknowledge you. Maybe in the chat box you go, hey, that was my question. So if you have Maremma dogs, you need to lock them up at night. If I had the chickens inside an electric fence and I had a Maremma dog inside the electric fence and the electric fence was on, I would not lock them up. I'm not a fan of locking up chickens. I've found if the electric fence is set up correctly and it's punching 4 kV or above, so 4,000 volts or above, a fox won't go through it. That's been my experience and talking to lots and lots of others. So if you've got a Maremma dog and electric fence, you don't need to lock them up. I would like to know more about raising organic free-range cockerels and chickens. As I said, I forget who asked that question. I did go back to you and said, like, what sort of numbers? If you put in the chat box, like, are you wanting to raise 8 or 800? I can probably give a little bit of advice. And I'll probably cover some other things later on about sort of homesteading and self-sufficiency that could talk about growing roosters. In one of your webinars, you showed setting up the fences in circles. Any reason you use a circle? Basically, the webinars that I would have shown using it in a circle, it would have been for maybe 30 or 60 chickens, or maybe even the 130 chickens. So if I was running 450 chickens, I'd normally do a square of 50 metres square. If I'm only using 2 fences, I just do it in a circle. It's just easier and faster to set up, and then where those circles meet, where the end of the fence meets, you can then set up another circle there. So you open up the center, move them through. But you can move it in whatever shape you want. So if you've got an orchard and you want to do it in a big long rectangle down the laneways, it doesn't have to be a circle. It was more for the example of how you physically set up the fences and where you open them up. That was in a webinar. If someone wants to know how to get onto some of those webinars, I am hosting more of them tomorrow and the next day. I can cover that later on in this, give you links if you want to see that. The webinar was called Getting Started with 60 Laying Hens. I'm starting out with 100 birds. Will the E-coop handle 100? No, the E-coop layer 60 is for 60 birds, but we are making an E-coop grower, which is slightly larger dimensions. And myself and the engineers sat down yesterday and said, hang on, we could actually put a 90 bird nesting box system in that. And then we looked at where do we put the perches, feeders, drinkers, and all the other, I suppose, boring engineering detail. And it looks like we can. So it's on our radar. It wouldn't be next week. It could be like 4 or 5 months away. We could do an E-coop for 90 laying hens, but not 100. But if you want to know more on or be updated on that, just send me an email, and when it's closer, I can give you an update. How much land should I allocate for 60 hens? It is a bit of the golden question. How much land do I need? It does depend on your rainfall, climate, how much ground cover. Also usable land, I might say 5 acres, and you go, well, I live on 5 acres, but we need to take into account, well, on that 5 acres, you've got trees, sheds, houses, driveways, other things. So it's not necessarily 5 usable acres, but to give you a number, how much land for 60 chickens? If you're moving them regularly, 2 to 3 acres, you could move them around in that. But there's still variables, like if it's steep country and it's got no grass and it's all rock, or you might need a bit more to move them around. Would it be better to buy starter pullets over chicks? Yes. For a few reasons. One, cash flow. You're outlaying money, you're outlaying a lot more for point of lay pullets, which are going to start laying in, say, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe longer if the days are shorter. So you're outlaying more money, but you're getting an income sooner from them, rather than you buy a day-old chick for $4, $5, $6, depending on where you're located, depending on how many you're buying. You can, you have to put the food and labour and effort into those to get them sort of up to laying rate. So you might be able to do them cheaper, but your time from initial investment to putting all the feed into them to then when they start laying eggs, it's just a long time. So 90 times out of 100, 9 times out of 10, I would say always buy point of lay pullets. It's just more efficient. Now, I have consulted in different parts of the world and on different specialty farms, and there are occasions where I say, yep, grow day-old chicks. So one of them is Ireland. So if you've got a farm on, say, Christmas Island, Norfolk Island, there's a number of islands that I've consulted to throughout the world. They can't buy in point of lay pullets for a quarantine thing. So they'll buy in day-old chickens. They'll literally fly them in on an aeroplane, because those day-old chickens have come out of an incubator, so they've never actually touched another chicken. They've just got a fertile egg, put it in an incubator and hatched it. So it's the chance of it carrying like external disease is very slim. It would have to carry an internal disease that would have to come through the embryo. So in that scenario, I'd say, well, you have to do day-old chickens, and I can sort of teach you how to brood day-old chickens. The other scenario, which I'm not sure if you're online yet, but I had someone email me and they were certified organic or certified biodynamic. And in that scenario, under certification law, you can't just buy in point of lay pullets, start feeding them organic feed tomorrow and then selling organic eggs. They say you need to have them on organic feed from, I think, 2 days of age. But if you don't live on an island and you're not certified organic, I would say go get some point of lay pullets. Let's go to the question box. Our chickens are plucking each other's feathers out since they first arrived. We've upped the protein and started feeding hemp seeds and soybean, but not helping. Nothing is really making a difference. While I answer the next question, tell me how many chickens you've got, what area they're in, how often you move them, the age of the birds, are they laying? And I can repeat that if you forgot. How many birds, how old are they laying, what area are they in, how long have they moved? Because there's some factors. I will answer the next question here and I'll come back to that one. Okay, this is a good one. Do many people get involved in hatching their own eggs to build their next flock as a way of keeping expenses down? And then it's like equipment required, sexing the chicks, area for raising the pullet. So it's probably an extension off the last question of like, would you buy in day olds or buy in point of lays? So probably no one in a commercial sense. And when I say a commercial sense, let's just draw a line and say 100 birds plus. So someone can be commercial, meaning they've got 60 birds and they're making a profit. But on 100 birds plus, I don't know anyone hatching their own. I'd probably look at trends and see what's happening around the world. Also consult to sort of developing nations through like charity organisations like World Vision. So consulting into Timor-Leste, also the Philippines and developing nations. I'm telling them to set up a program to breed their own. I'll probably look at the big commercial operations, and for them to get hold of point of lay pullets, it could be quite hard. And also they're nations that are happy to process and pluck a chicken and eat a chicken, where some Australians, like, it might be better just to go to the store to do that. So back to the question, do many people get involved in hatching eggs to build their next flock as a way of keeping expenses down? No. I'm doing some of my own, I suppose, research on this to try and find a happy medium, because I want to do this on a scale probably 100 birds or less, because I think where we're going, the fact that all the male chicks, they're not even growing them out as meat chickens. They're normally at day old, they're processed to then be sold off as reptile food or mince or just destroyed. I think moving forward, and I'm talking 10 years from now, we need to do a better system. So hopefully more people will do it, but we don't have some good case studies yet. So ask me in 2.5 years from now and I'll give you an update. Can you suggest a supplier of point of lay pullets in order to get our bird cost closer to your $14 per bird? We are situated in the hinterland Sunshine Coast. $14 a bird. That's probably what I've got on a spreadsheet. That's a guide. It could be $16.50. It could be $13. So where you're located, I would get hold of Bond Enterprises. They're in Gatton in Queensland. So just Google Bond Enterprises. And you can see what they do for point of lay pullets. Let's go back to here. So Jewel Hanson, where have we got? Okay, so you got 300. They're 12 months old. They're laying 150 to 180 eggs a day in North Queensland. Hanson Hill hens shifted every week, 80 acres. They are free range in 4 by 50 metre electric fence. The grass is long. Okay, so there's nothing that jumps out there to me that it doesn't sound like. You've upped the protein, started feeding them hemp seeds. They're plucking each other's feathers out since they first arrived. There's nothing straight up where I'm like, it's probably this. So it could be an unknown. I would be getting hold of your pullet supplier and say, hey, this is what's happening. What do you recommend? I'm not saying that they're going to give you an amazing answer, but they could. If they've been doing it since they arrived, I don't know. I can only guess they're probably already doing it before they arrived, and they may have been in a habit from, I don't know, your pullet supplier or anything, but if they were in a shed with 25,000 other pullets and they were bored and maybe their protein wasn't amazing, they might have just got into the habit. So they might not be doing it because they're malnutrition. They might be doing it just because of boredom, and they've been doing it and they're out of habit. That's my answer. I'm sure if you spoke to other poultry experts, they could probably give you a real detailed answer, because they might be more specialized in dealing with bad habit birds. I'm not. Maybe I've been lucky. Maybe I've got lack of experience. Sorry, I can't help you more there. I'm wanting to start a business. Next question. I'm wanting to start a business selling chicken eggs. Do you know a good supplier to buy Isa Browns from? Not sure where you're from. I find Bond Enterprises in Gatton in Queensland pretty good if you're on the east coast of Australia. Otherwise, just Google point of lay pullets. Normally you can find a pullet supplier if you're buying them between $13 and $16.50 a bird, that's normally pretty good. And on that, some people say, should I buy Isa Browns or should I buy Highlines? I haven't heard horror stories on either one. I've heard good things about both of them. So they're pretty much the same to me. I say that. I'm sure the Isa Brown sales rep will go, no, ours are heaps better. And the Highland sales rep will go, no, ours is like heaps better. But if you're going Isa Browns or Highline, a commercial layer, they'll both lay awesome for the first year. And then after they've laid for a year, you want to get rid of them. Sally, I spoke to you about 2-3 weeks ago regarding point of lay hens. They were delivered 14th of Feb as 16.5 week olds. They will be 21.5 weeks old this Friday, and I'm only getting 20 eggs a day out of 140 birds. You assured me that they would be laying in 10 days' time. Not the case. I'm really struggling to believe that they were actually 16.5 weeks old at the time of delivery. Their combs are still developing, and they have halved their weight again. Not sure what you mean by that. I have 100 birds on the same feed, and they are laying 85%. The supplier of birds want to get my feed tested. Again, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Maybe, as you said, maybe they weren't 16 and a half weeks and they were only, I don't know, I haven't seen the birds. Maybe they were younger and they're saying, oh yeah, they're heaps older. With the feed, you might be able to go back to your feed supplier and say, hey, can I actually just get a data sheet through of what it actually is, and maybe talk to those two. Because yeah, if they haven't picked up by now, it's not like the days are crazy short at the moment. And if they are over 20 weeks, I think you should be getting more eggs than that. Next question. We also have a problem with foxes. Which do you think works better? Would you use guard dog or strong electric fence? I'd probably say both. I think electric fence, and I always say set upright, because someone can just throw it in the ground and their grass is knee high and it's shorting out. But if you set it upright and there's no gaps, I find the electric fence is awesome against foxes. I literally got a message in the last 25 minutes from someone, and I don't know if you are on the call, where they said, I've used electric fence, I've looked down the paddock, I've seen a fox go up, touch it, and then just bolt. Like it got hit and it was run off. I've heard heaps of stories by people that are diligent with setting it up. They go, they've never, ever had a fox attack. And I've heard those stories again and again. If you're in a situation where you can get a Maremma dog and that's going to work for you, your lifestyle, the size of your farm and everything. And I sort of say that because if you're on 6 acres right near the neighbours and your dog's barking all night, that might not work socially. But if you've got the room for the dog and you can run the electric fence as well, I'd do both. When I first started, I didn't know what was going to work because I didn't have a mentor to mentor me. There were times where I would trial Maremma dogs, I'd trial fox lights, alpacas, electric fencing. Oh, there was other stuff. We did all sorts of weird stuff to go like, what's going to work, until we got the data down to a really, really good electric fence works. And I've had people, they've actually got rid of Maremma dogs now and they've got rid of alpacas because the fence works. Alpacas and Maremma dogs are awesome. I just look at it as another barrier of defense. I'm situated around Benalla. I'm trying to find a supply for pullet and also good feed, but also cost effective. So as for feed, I know Ridley's is pretty good. They're like they do commercial feed all over the place. I'd contact them. This is where I'm located. Can I get a price per tonne or bag or pallet, however? As per pullet supply, like I don't know every pullet supply around, but like a bit of a Google search and a ring around, hey, do you deliver to my area? Do you know who does? You might be able to find someone. And it also depends on numbers, because you'll have someone ring up a pullet supplier and they're only after like 25 birds. You might be after 450. So that'll determine if they go, yes, we can supply that many, or your minimum order is something different. And also the price you pay. If they're delivering to someone 30 birds, they might not even take the order versus a 450 order. So I'll just refer you to Google on that. Are there any issues with chickens coming on the lay with the days becoming shorter? When chicks first come on, do they increase in egg numbers slowly or in a rush? There's no issue with them coming on as the days become shorter. If they're at the age where they're going to start laying, it's irrelevant the time of year. They will, meaning they're just going to come on the lay. If you've got point of lay pullets and they're about to come on the lay, it's September, the days are getting longer, and I'm talking Southern Hemisphere now. Spring, if it's spring, they're naturally going to lay a few more eggs and start laying earlier than if they're coming on, May, June, July sort of thing. They don't, like with your question, do they come on slowly or in a rush? What you'll find, just say if you had 100 chickens, you might go out there one day and go, oh, we got 1 egg. The next day you might have 2 eggs. The third day you might have 5. The next day you might have 7. The next day you might have 15, then 25, 35. And you normally have sort of 5 or 6 days that you'll get a few. And then after you've got maybe 10% of them laying, or a bit more, they'll then will sort of come on. So I don't know, that slowly or a rush. It's rare to go down, or probably never happens. If you had 400 birds, you wouldn't just go feeding them and then day after day, one day, oh my goodness, there's 380 eggs. It doesn't happen like that. You'll start getting a few gradual come on. Hi, Joel. I think that's to someone else. Okay, I've also had a problem with the electric fence pegs. They tend to bend easily. Is there a solution for this? Rain in the drought and they're going into hard ground. Yes, we did have a lot of people had issues with fence posts. I've got more coming in from America and they'll be here in less than 4 weeks. Spare posts. So if you go on the website, I think they come in bundles of 6 or 10. I think that's all the questions there. I'm going to jump back here. How am I going for time? Good, I think. Okay. Do you add shell grit directly into the feed or free choice? Free choice. What you find with shell grit with small numbers and big numbers, so let's just say big numbers like a flock of 450, you might have a tub, like a little ice cream container of shell grit, and you might have it sitting there for weeks and you look at it each day and there's nothing there, and you come one day and it's just empty. Don't know why. I couldn't put it down to the weather or anything. Sometimes they'll just go for it, and then other times they'll barely touch it. So you want it free choice, because if you try and put it with a feed, what will happen, like I said, sometimes they'll just want heaps of it and they just won't get enough in the feed. Other times it'll just be sitting at the bottom of the feeder. So just have it free choice in a little container. Just keep it out of the rain so that container doesn't fill up with water and come all festy. So free choice. Let them just work out how much they want. For layers, do you buy in separate components of feed and combine them so they are, or if so, what are the specs or ratio? If not, what ratio should we be observing when buying ready-made feed? Any suggestions? Okay, I don't mix feed. I've worked with a few farms that do it, but it's very rare. I would only do it if you already know what you're doing. To say, hey, we work with a grainologist that understands lysines and proteins and methionines and all those big words like can't say properly, spell or pronounce. If you are one of those people, or your mate, or you already understand, or you work with someone, you might look into it. But from what I've seen, even people that do understand it, they just go by a ready-made commercial laying mix. So commercial laying mix, I'm talking between 17 and 19% protein. If you walked into a Farm Supplies today and looked at a chook food bag and you flipped it over, on the back, it's got all the, like calcium and minerals or whatever. If you just look, I think it'll say crude protein. You want to see that like 17%, 18%, 19%. I think most of them are 18%. And it'll be called a commercial layer mix. That's what you're looking for. That's basically what I look for. I read that businesses like to deal with companies proprietary limited over sole traders or family partnerships. When dealing with shops and retailers selling eggs, have you heard if they take you more seriously as a company compared to sole trader partnerships? Sorry, not really an egg or chicken focused question. That's fine. I haven't found a difference. If I'm selling eggs to a restaurant and then the invoice says proprietary limited, like Daniel's Eggs Proprietary Limited versus Daniel's Eggs that had an ABN number, I haven't found a difference. What I would, if you're looking at going a proprietary limited, talk to someone that knows what they're talking about. That could be your accountant, it could be a lawyer, it could be a financial advisor. So you might go, I'm not one of those, just putting that out there. You might go after getting professional advice, you might become a proprietary limited company just to protect yourself. But there's legal people that can better explain and give you advice on that. But as for selling to restaurants, I haven't heard a story. It's like, oh, this restaurant really wanted my eggs, but I'm not a proprietary limited company, so don't worry about that. Okay, our second lot of hens are laying now, but due to the uncertainty around coronavirus, okay, anyone that's concerned about coronavirus selling eggs, listen up. I've wanted to address this. Due to the uncertainty around coronavirus, the businesses like cafes, restaurants, which rely heavily on tourism, is coming to an abrupt end. We are trying to market into cafes, restaurants frequented by locals, but they are also tightening up and taking a wait and see approach as local distancing, etc., is threatening. We are also quite close to farmers markets being closed, which is unfortunate as we have been able to sell weekly surplus there. Certainly not the situation we needed to find ourselves in at this stage of our business. Let's hope the situation changes quickly. Coronavirus, let's talk about it. So with the coronavirus, and I want to sort of answer your question. I don't know who that's from. Sorry, I didn't get all the names put down on this list. If that's your business or anyone else is in a similar situation that you're wanting to sell your eggs to restaurants, and restaurants, they're probably going to get hit hard. I've already heard some stories about it. This is a time where you do want your finger on the pulse and you can pivot your business and do very, very well out of it. So one of the things, I filmed a case study literally on Monday. So today's Wednesday, 2 days ago. I just need to edit it. We're talking small numbers of this case study, but it can scale the whole concept. This lady, she has 30 chickens and she doesn't, and if they lay, say, 21 eggs a day, she doesn't eat 21 eggs a day. So naturally she sells them. She's just gone on to a local Facebook marketplace. Like if you've been on Facebook and you got a buy, swap, sell site, she's gone on one of those. What I would say, read the rules first in case they say you can't sell food. She said, hey, I've got a farm, I've got some chickens, I've got some excess eggs and they're so much a dozen and I'm delivering into town each Thursday, message me. And now this was a few months ago. This wasn't this week when people are trying to buy toilet paper. This was months ago when everything was normal. She was inundated with replies, which she took the post down. Everyone that replied, she's like, what I'll do, I'll put you in my messenger group. So just like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp group, if that's more familiar to them. And now all she doesn't even have a set delivery day. She'll be like, I'm going into town on Thursday and I've got 6 dozen spare eggs. And she's got about 60 or 80 people in there. So suddenly you've got people saying, oh yeah, I'll take 1 dozen, I'll take 2 dozen, I'll take this. And they're sort of buying directly off her. So doesn't have a Facebook page, no Facebook group. Well, sorry, she does have a Facebook page, but she's not even promoting it through there. She doesn't have a Facebook group. She doesn't have a website, an email list, all the other things that you should have in business, so to speak. And she's selling these eggs. She's doing like a home delivery service. If you're in a situation where the coronavirus is affecting you, I would be starting up a buyer's group as soon as you can. So you don't want to wait for 6 weeks from now where you're feeding birds, you've got too many eggs. Start small, even if it's with 6 dozen. I'd be going out to your local town, region, city, wherever the population base is, and say, I've got eggs, they're this price, I can do home delivery, and you might just pick a suburb. You don't want to be going 40 minutes this way and 20 minutes that way. You'll probably pick an area. If they're not in that area, you might create a drop-off or a pickup location, or they get their friend to do it. I've literally heard of people, don't know if you're allowed to do this or not, but they'll say, on a Saturday morning, I'll meet you at Bunnings car park over the eastern side. I'm in the blue Hilux. And then people will come up and buy their eggs. It gets to a stage where you can actually do this through bank transfer. So you're not dealing with $50 notes and change. You say, here are the eggs, here's the bank details, pay for them. Looking at that service, now is a time in history which you can win at that very easily. Like just yesterday, I was in Coles. I'll see if I can bring up the picture on my phone and show it to you guys. And you've probably seen this before. I walked past eggs in Coles, not that I was trying to buy eggs, but it had one of those things, a little notice. I'm not sure if anyone can. Well, it's not going to let me. This is a picture of the tag. Due to high current demand of eggs, we have introduced a temporary limit of 2 items per transaction. This will help to maintain availability. So right now, and I'm talking, that was yesterday, and I was actually in the Coles again this morning because I grabbed some stuff on my way to work. There's not many eggs there. People are in panic shopping, which I don't think is a good idea, but that's just where they're at. So right now, there's a bunch of people that probably don't want to go to the shops because they don't want to be anywhere near people. They do want food. So if you enter the market, you're solving a problem to say, I can home deliver them to you. They're awesome eggs and they're this price and it's this locality, or do the Bunnings car park, or say it's a minimum of 3 dozen and they can get some friends together. So what is currently potentially a bad thing, what I see for farmers who can like direct market, i.e. eggs, awesome. You obviously can't do this with beef cattle. You can't just walk your beef cow into town and go, all right, here's my knife and start cutting it up. But with eggs, where you've got the potential to self-market, I think it's a perfect opportunity. There's people going, I want to buy food. I want to get home delivery. And I found out yesterday, whether it's right or wrong, I didn't spend hours wasting time reading up all this stuff. But I think in Australia, Coles and Woolworths, they've cancelled online deliveries because I think their system went into meltdown because everyone's like, well, I'll just jump online and order it. So people that are used to ordering online, they're not doing it. If you enter the market to say, I can do it, there is a price attached and you work that out, because I don't know how far you are from town, but you offer a home delivery with eggs. Everything your restaurants were taking, you can now sell directly to families. You're selling them at retail price than wholesale price. It could shift your business in a positive way. Small figures, if you're selling all your eggs for $6 a dozen wholesale, and then you're now selling them for $7.50, you've actually doubled your net profits because your input costs haven't changed. Now, in that example, you might have delivery costs to a bit of running around, so it might not necessarily be double, but I'm saying don't overlook this opportunity. Don't look back 6 months from now and go, oh, we could have done that. You're on this call today. If coronavirus is affecting you and your egg business, start doing home delivery. Get it out on Facebook. Talk to whoever, and you can just build a database, and it'll probably be fairly secure because it'll be like heaps and heaps of people. So hopefully that's answered that question. I'm happy to take more questions on individual situations with the coronavirus and give you some advice there. Oh yeah, someone said, I won't read it word for word, but yeah, when putting in the fences, people have used like a cordless drill long drill bit to put the chicken fences in. What does shell grit help with for the chickens? That person sent their email to Mark and Kim. Shell grit. So shell grit's full of calcium. So the outside shell of an egg is it's got a lot of calcium in it. So you'll find when your birds have been laying, like if you keep them for 12 months of lay, in that last part, their shells will get softer. So you want to make sure they've got plenty of shell grit. These birds have, let's just say the word, been engineered to just pump out eggs. Like an Isa Brown, she'll lay like 300 eggs a year. Work that out in kilos. It's about 10 times her own body weight. She weighs about 2 kilos. She lays about 20 kilos of eggs in the first year. By the end of that year, she's literally taking calcium out of her own bones to produce that eggshell. So if you can get the shell grit in, it will improve calcium. They do have other health benefits, but that's the main thing because it's high in calcium. The other benefits, they use rocks as well, which are in their crop, and it grinds up grass and grains and whatever. But that's more rocks than shell grit, but shell grit does help. Total newbie here, never had chickens. I was wondering, do you lock the chickens in the caravan at night inside the electric netting or leave the caravan open? I think I sort of covered this. If the chicken fence is set up correctly, it's got plenty of voltage through it, I'll leave the caravan open. Someone said $7.50 per dozen, ? Oh, this was from a webinar or something. In my area, most people are getting $4 to $5 a dozen. The short answer to that question, it's a marketing thing. People aren't afraid of price. If we were all buying on price, we would all walk into the car dealership and say, just show me the absolute bottom of the range, cheapest car you've got. That's what I want. But almost no one does that. People don't shop on price as much as sometimes the business owner, us, think they do. So with the $7.50 a dozen, if you present them right, people will pay it to say they're on grass, they're moved regularly, this is how I care for the birds, they're local, my farm's here, and you tell the story. But if you just want to go in like everyone else go, they're just a carton on a supermarket shelf, you might only get $4 to $5. Part of it is demographics. If there are some areas that if there's a lot of like farm gate sales of people selling the eggs for $4 a dozen, and you try and come in, you've probably got to tell a better story, just have better photos on Instagram or Facebook, and have a bit of transparency around what you do. The better you tell the story, the more you'll get for your eggs. I could probably talk about marketing with transparency for 2 hours. I literally did a 10-week course on it last year, but you want to bring transparency into your marketing to show them why it's worth $750 a dozen. A quick example of that, which I've used when I've done talks around the place, is if you've ever seen an iPhone, an Apple iPhone, when it first comes out, they'll make a video to say, hey, we made it smaller and we made the screen bigger and we put this special button on and whatever. The psychology behind that, they're telling the story of, we worked really hard and we put a lot of energy into this. And then at the end of the video, you find out they want to sell it to you for $1,000, and they literally sell hundreds of millions of dollars worth. But they've sold the story. They're not selling a discounted product. You're sort of doing that with your eggs. You're saying who you are, where you're from, how many hens you got, like what the hens are housed in, where you move them, and say that's why they're $7.50 a dozen. So yes, you can sell your eggs for $7.50 a dozen. You've sort of got to justify to the person that they're actually worth that. Have to find, what brand of incubator do you use? Baroto. I'll see if I can do this. When I had a few questions, I thought, oh, I'll just put together a bit of a presentation, and then it just got way out of hand. So I didn't. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'll see if I can. Here we go. Let's see this. Okay, so I've got a different screen to you guys because I'm seeing comments or whatever. Okay, so incubator I use, it's not actually this one in the picture. Mine's called a Real 48 or 49. I use Baroto. They're awesome. I did a lot of research on the company. They're made in Italy. It's probably not a good thing right today. But anyway, there's an Australian supplier, Brookfield Poultry. They're located in Victoria. The thing I like about Baroto, one, I've looked into the company. It looks like they just do the engineering and finish it really well. The other thing, I don't know if you can see my mouse on the screen, but anyway, if you can't, the bottom right-hand picture, it shows a top view of the Baroto incubator, one of the models. That big white egg you see, that's a goose egg. The two light brown ones either side is a chicken egg, and those tiny little ones where you've got 4 together, you've got 2 lots of them, they're quail eggs. They've patented this design where you can put a goose egg, a duck egg, a chicken egg, a quail egg, all in the same thing. So, yeah, that's the sort of incubator. While I'm on the slides, and I'm just going to go back to, I think everyone can still see me, hope so. Oh, hang on, I think I've got a question in case someone, all good. Okay, while I'm still on these slides, someone asked, and it's later on in the questions, of a self-sufficiency chicken flock. This could have been related to the coronavirus. Hey, I want to have a chicken flock for self-sufficiency. So I wanted to share a few tips anyway. Australorps or dual purpose breed. So in that picture, there's not actually many Australorps in this picture. The black one's an Australorp. The white and black one on the far right-hand side, that's actually an Australorp. It's a speckled one. So the reason Australorps, that they can be used for meat and they can be used for eggs. So this is literally my flock of chickens. I'm playing around with some breeding and also some new products we're looking at bringing out. They're a dual purpose. So if you're looking at a self-sufficient flock, firstly, look at a dual purpose bird. I've got a couple eyes of browns in there, But to breed from them, and then if you're going to eat the roosters, they're not going to be amazing, meaning they're not going to have a lot of meat on them. Yeah, on the self-sufficiency, get an incubator. You can hatch your own. Also, broody hens. There's a hen with 2 or 3 chickens there. Let's talk homesteading, and this is a market for, if you've got 800 laying hens, this is not for you. But if you're going, hey, I don't have any chickens, I want to do something, you could look at, when you do your flock, to go, well, use some of the broody hens to hatch eggs. If you do that 10 times a year, they each hatch 8 chickens. There's 80 chickens a year. Half of them are roosters, 40 roosters, 40 new laying hens. So don't underestimate the power of that. And this is a picture, if you've been following me on Facebook recently, this is 9 roosters that I'm growing out. I literally hatched these out of an egg, I don't know how many months ago, and I'm growing up. In the next couple of weeks, I'll process them and eat them. That's what I want to do, rather than just buying in pullets. I'm talking small numbers, and I'm sort of doing a bit of a trial breeding program. The other thing, if you're looking at self-sufficiency, grow excess, meaning if you are going to go through 2 dozen eggs a week, have enough to produce maybe 7 dozen eggs a week, because then you can sell off 5 dozen, and you can at least get to a point where you're getting your eggs for free. To feed 12 chickens or to feed 28 chickens, not much more work at all. They're all together. So if you're looking at, hey, I want a self-sufficient chicken flock, I would say grow some excess, because then you've got you've got capacity to sell off some, and then recoup some of your feed costs. While I've got the slideshow here, or the PowerPoint, someone asked about the brooder. How big's my brooder? What are the sizes? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you. So I got the tape out and took photos. So it's 1.2 tall. Now that's off the ground, because I've got a little, as you can see in that picture, I've got a little frame underneath it there. So it's 1.2 meters tall. It's 1.64 meters long. So it's the length of it. What do we got here? The width, 0.74 wide. That's the width of it. And the depth is about 0.5 meter, because it's up on a stand. I just put sawdust in there. So that's the size. I'll comfortably brood 50 chickens in there. I have put like 70 or 80 in there, but you obviously got to get them out earlier, because they get big and they run out of room. But if I had 50 chickens and I took them in there for maybe up to 3 weeks, and then I want to put them in a grower coop or something different, that's the size of my brooder, if you're taking notes. There you go. Let's get back to, can you guys see me again? I don't know what's on your screen. If you can see me, someone give me a thumbs up. Can you see me? Okay, cool. I didn't know you were looking at some blank screen or something. Awesome. Let me get back to, I'll see what questions we've got here. Okay. Could you just have a 1.8 meter high heavy duty exclusion fence around, say, 70-acre paddock, and have a caravan to move around, i.e. no dogs and no electric fences? Great question, Pete. That's an awesome question. Yes, you could, but I've seen farms that do this or something similar to this. 70 acres paddock. I don't know what that is in like meters. Obviously 70 acres is area, and then you've got to price that out. You price out a 1.8 meter heavy duty exclusion fence, one that's really expensive, and that's infrastructure that you can't sell, meaning 5 years from now, if you don't want to be in chickens, and hopefully you do, but I look at business and risk. I want to get rid of risk. If I've got portable infrastructure and I get hit by a truck tomorrow and my right leg gets ripped off, and I want to sell my infrastructure, my portable like equipment, I can put it on eBay and I can sell it. If I build a fence around my 70-acre paddock and I want to stay on the farm, I probably can't recoup that cost if my leg gets ripped off tomorrow. I would have to sell the farm and hopefully sell it to someone that looks at that fence and gone, that is worth every penny, and pay me extra for the farm. So I purely look at that as risk, going return on investment, cost benefit analysis. How long is it going to take me to pay back that? If I want to get out tomorrow because something's happened, what do I do there? So the cost, also with permanent fencing, people look at the cost of putting it in, they don't look at maintenance cost. Over the years, I've put in chicken fencing, or not on my personal farm. I've helped other people put chicken fencing around, say, a 12 or 15 acre paddock or multiple. When you first put it up and you got the tractor and you put the mulcher over it, it's all short, there's no weeds, there's no trees. It looks beautiful. 5 years in, you can't whippersnip up against that. You will get grass and weeds and all things growing in it. If you've got 70 acres, something will dig underneath it. If you don't want that, you got to bury it, and then it's more money. Sorry, I'm probably talking you out of it already. The cost to do that is crazy. What I would do if you wanted to go, I don't want to set up portable electric fences, one option could be like put some dog fence on it. It's going to be a lot cheaper, and run a Maremma dog inside that 70 acres. But I would highly, highly recommend you do some figures before you do that. And if after me saying all that, you're like, hey, I still want to do it, I'm happy to give you a 6-minute call and actually talk through some of the figures and go, how is this going to work out? Because I still have alarm bells of risk of going, I don't know if that's a good thing, but maybe you've got something I don't know about where you go, we're actually going to have 12,000 birds and that's half done or something. I don't know. But if you want to talk to me further, send me an email. I'll jump on the phone for a few minutes. Okay, over the past year, I've had a problem with the heat affecting the chickens laying eggs. Is there a solution to help them keep laying without the heat affecting them? Does anyone happen to know of a good brand for an electric fence? I know of a good brand of electric fence. So on that, which was in, I've got questions later on. Someone said, what brand of electric fence do we sell? So we actually sell Premier One Fence. Premier One is an American company. The fences are actually made in Germany, but they were designed and all the specs were done in America by a guy called Stan. Stan has literally been here and sat down at a table with my brother and I, and we've talked to him and about his company. So I know the owner of the company. We've dealt with Premier One for years, and Premier, in some ways, Premier One electric fencing is new to Australia. They've been using this stuff in Europe and America for 25 years or more. It's mainly been the last 8 or 9 years that Premier One is getting popular in Australia. So that's the brand of fence. We've used other stuff. We've seen a range of other stuff, and the other stuff's crap. I probably shouldn't say that, but I want to say that for your sake. And the reason we know that is we have the people call us up going, I bought this stuff on eBay because it was cheaper than yours, but 18 months later, it's starting to break apart. Do you sell repair kits? Do you sell spare posts so we can get ours up to speed? I was that guy 10 years ago. I bought some of the orange and green rolls, which you'll still see on eBay today. I bought that stuff. I bought 10 orange rolls. It was like $3,500. I was still about $350 a roll. And after 2 years or even less, you see how much the fences fade. They're not 1.2 meters high, they're about 1.1. They sag quite a bit in between the posts. I say this, they're good if you've got 4 silky chickens in the backyard and a fox terrier on the veranda that's keeping an eye on them. But for a commercial sense, don't go there. Back to your question about the heat. Yeah, chickens don't like heat. I do say to people, look long term. And what I mean by that, we could do some strategies like next summer and the summer after to keep them cool. Like there's things people do with ice, or we can get ice in their water. One of the things that they're taking in a lot of water that's cool water, and there's things you can do that. But I say, looking long term, plant some trees. I see so many farms that go, oh yeah, I should have planted some trees. It's like the old saying, you know, the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. The second best times, today. You start planting trees, you've got shade. Like the chickens are going to be a lot cooler. Yes, you'll still get some of those freak summers that even in the shade, it is just the same temperature. It's just really hot. But I'd look at what you're doing and say, how can you create more shade and shelter and a cooler environment out in the paddock? Maybe talking about heat, I'll consider doing if people are keen, who's keen for me to do a full presentation on keeping birds cool in summer? If you are, put that in the chat box and maybe I can expand on that. Okay. Does the stocking rate equal number birds per netted area or number of birds over the total area to be grazed over time? Good question, Simon. So I'm guessing from what Simon's saying, if someone's saying 1,500 hens per hectare, what does that mean? I don't talk stocking rates because they're sort of dumb. They're sort of good because they want to bring in regulation, but when Coles or Woolworths says, hey, we've got 10,000 birds per hectare, the average person, and I'm probably average person, would not be able to know what 10,000 looks like. It's too many. Like if we had a football field at ANZ Stadium and we put 2,500 birds out there and we surveyed everyone in that stadium, 100,000 people, to go guess how many chickens there, probably no one would get it right. You put 10,000 there, no one would have a clue what it means. So it's sort of a stupid thing. What it actually means, if it's like 10,000 birds per hectare, it means forever. 10,000 birds on 2 football fields forever, for the duration of their life. Then they get rid of them and they get a new flock of birds and they're out on that patch of dirt. That's what it means. So even stocking rates of, oh, yep, go 1,500 birds per hectare, if it's not moved, you're still, like, there'll probably still be grass there, but it's not good for the thing. The better question from a consumer anyway is go, how often do you move them? I wouldn't care if there's a lot more birds per hectare, like inside the netted area, but if you're moving them all the time. I'm a massive fan of cell grazing, and the best example of that is the wildebeest in Africa. No one says, well, what's the set stocking density of those wildebeest in Africa? It doesn't matter. They're moving. They're highly compacted thanks to the lions, and they're moving. They're just chomping down everything. And there's no one out there going, okay, let's run them through the yards and give them this injection and let's spray out some super and spray some Roundup up over here. It's lush. It all just works. So number of birds per netted area. I don't advertise it. I just advertise we move our birds regularly. And if you explain that, back to the thing of marketing with transparency, if you explain, we don't look at stocking rates because that's just one spot forever. We move them and we're moving them around our entire farm, which is this. People are like, oh, cool. They're educated. Time for a drink. It's coffee. It's not beer. It's not Corona beer anyway. Can you recommend a good, cheap payment platform for selling eggs online for home delivery? No, but I want to. I'll write that down because I do know, you can look him up if you know who I'm talking about. There's a 17-year-old kid, still goes to school, and he sells all his eggs online. Absolute champion. He's finished school now, but when I first met him, he saw me at a train station, go, "You're Daniel O'Brien." I'm like, a train station in Sydney, and I'm like, "Who are you?" And there's this kid in a school uniform. He's like, "I've read your book," and I'm like, "Who are you?" And anyway, it turns out he hops on a train for an hour and a half each way. He lives an hour and a half away from Sydney, has 300 chooks, and sells his eggs online and at farmers markets. And yeah, he's at school. And we delivered his second 450 caravan, and he wasn't there because he was doing year 12 and his mum didn't let him take the day off. And I'm like, full respect to you, buddy. He sells his eggs online. I'll look into selling platforms. I'd probably just Google it. There's probably a bunch available. Like, you could look at Shopify, but you'll probably be spending $99 a month. Selling platform for eggs online. I'll see if I can find out what other people are using. Okay, do Australorps lay as much as Isa Browns? No, but they lay longer. So an Isa Brown might start laying at 22 weeks of age, and then for 12 months lay, and she might lay 300 eggs. The Australorp may only lay 270 eggs or 265. I don't literally have the exact number. So she lays less eggs, but where the Isa Brown after a year, like her egg shell quality is going down and her lay rate's going down. So where the Isa Brown will drop off, the Australorp will maintain a lot more steady. These are the things I sort of love and hate about the industry. Those Isa Browns, they could develop them to lay for longer, but we're talking 2 companies on the whole of planet Earth that develop these commercial layers. You've got Highline, you've got Isa, and you've got probably some other smaller companies that filter through, but they're pretty well, all the genetic stock goes back to them. So they've developed a bird where we have to sort of go back and buy a new one after every 12 months. So I love the fact they lay heaps of eggs, but they've sort of developed as like, well, you're now reliant on me. I think 5 to 7 years from now, we will see a bit of a shift with things like the coronavirus and different things where everyone's relied on the big guys. You'll find smaller guys coming through, and they are hatching their own and developing their own. I suppose privately, I've been speaking with a lot of people which are like, hey, we're interested in doing this. And I think there'll probably be enough of a tipping point where people on a small scale will do it, and you probably will find some farms like running 1,000 layers, which they'll incubate their own eggs and get a market for the roosters. But we're still a few years away from the way I can see it. So no, they don't lay as many as the Isa Browns, but they'll probably lay for longer. Right, we have fed the chooks turmeric too, and it has slowed them down from picking others and us too. Oh yeah, pecking the others and pecking you. We also had one rooster, and he looks just like them. Oh, okay, so a rooster came in your mix. So the turmeric slowed them down. Cool. I've heard of people feeding turmeric. I hadn't heard any feedback. I think that I'd heard it because of makes the eggs more yellow, but I know turmeric has a lot of natural benefits. So awesome. Yes, for presentation on keeping birds cool. We'll have to do a note on that. We would love more information on keeping birds cool in summer. Okay, yes. Okay, I think I need to be making a presentation on that. Do you sell repair kits for your electric fences? Silly me, set up mine as a temporary deterrent for my Dorper sheep. Unfortunately, one girl really thought grass was greener on the other side, forced her head through, did some sort of somersault, and was choking. Oh, that's not good. I had to cut her out. As this occurred, 2 panels from the end, I could cut the panels and fence. Could cut the panels and the fence still work? ? Yes, we do sell repair kits. When you got the fence, it should have come with 1 repair kit. But we sell the Premier One repair kits, and we've also got something. I was about to run out and grab you one. They're called Litz clips. I haven't even listed them on the website, but they're like ultra fast to repair. The thing is, if I run out, some of the team will see me and then they'll start asking me questions, and then I'll get distracted with some delivery driver, and then I won't come back in. So I won't run out there. But send us an email, support@Chicken Caravan, because I might not get it. One of the team will say, tell me about the repair kits, or where are they on the website? And Daniel said something about Litz clips. And I think Litz, L-I-T, clips. To everyone. Okay. So repair kits. Could I buy Australops for eggs, and then when they are older use them for meat? Yes, probably not commercially. So you're saying, can you use Australops? They lay eggs and then at the end of their life turn to meat. Yes, you can do it with Isa Browns as well. There's probably not a commercial market and a viability yet where you can actually send them to an abattoir, they process it. But I'm quite excited for the possibility that will come, because in the Western developed world, our wages have gone so high, we write off so much, and it actually gets me sad to tears. I've worked in the food industry, and we're cleaning out a commercial mincer, and you've got like the big worm that pushes the big spiral that pushes the mince through, and there's a certain amount of mince in there. Now, like when I say a certain amount, it could be 1.5 kilos. Now, every time, because I've worked on farms, I'm like, I want to save that, and it might not be fully minced, but can we put it in a pet food bag or do something? And it could be like sausage mince, because we made sausage. It's like, we don't have time to do that. Just hose it out and just wash it down the drain. So I really find it hard. It's just like, it's not viable because we don't have the time to do it, because the labour prices outstripped, I suppose, the real price. And I think something's out of proportion, where you go to a developing nation and they go, well, that's viable, that's food, we can eat that. So having at the end of their life, could you use them for meat? Yes, but you couldn't commercially. So what I mean is, if you had 50 layers and you processed them yourself and you ate them yourself, certainly. And I want to get to a stage and start doing some case studies of people doing that. I think it'd be awesome seeing a lot of these wasted land, these 3 and 4 acre blocks, and someone's just cutting the grass with a ride-on lawnmower, going, that couple could have 30 or 60 laying hens and be producing eggs for their local community. And you wouldn't have this bloody food shortage of what we've got at the moment, of everyone pulling stuff off shelves because we forgot how to just farm the land with some simple practices. Anyway, that's my rant. Australops, yes, you could use them for meat, but don't think you can just take them all to the abattoir and it's all going to be viable to then send it off to a butcher shop, because they're not going to be big and fat like a meat chicken. Is there any benefit in having any roosters with the layers? Yes. So a few years ago, so eagles, there was a couple of farms, they had a bit of an eagle problem, and they kept a few roosters in the flocks, and they found the roosters crowing and jumping up on top of the skid feeder. It was deterring the eagles. I don't know if one day the eagle just came and go, well, we're just going to take you, buddy, or if it was just he was a little bit more on the lookout. But yes, there was a benefit. And I actually heard someone say he didn't want the eggs fertilised. Not that it matters. It's like this tiny little dot that you can't even see. But he actually went to a vet and got a rooster's operation to get them castrated. So, and I'd never heard about that, but it's on the podcast with Lou Mitzi. You can Google that, greengrass egg farming, Lou Mitzi. But yeah, so there's no real benefit. On smaller scale flocks, I'm talking 30, 60 hens. So if someone's homesteading, I think it's great because you can just get 4 dozen eggs, put them in an incubator. I normally have my incubator there, but I've just washed it up. Put 4 dozen eggs in, 3 weeks later, you got baby chicks. So suddenly the value of those 4 dozen eggs, hatching them into chicks, has just gone sort of through the roof. So I think it's good in that regard. If you were, sorry, I've got something coming in on my phone, on my computer. Sorry, I think I just answered a phone call on my computer. Anyway, I'm back. Let's get back to, so benefits of roosters with the layers. Okay, I thought of having Australorps about 30, but we have problem with the heat killing them. What could I do about that? Okay, so one of the things with, one of the things about Australorps or some of these pure breeds is you've got these show birds that people develop a pretty bird for the Royal Easter Show, and that's good, but that's a different category. I want to park that over to the side. I don't want to bag out those people, but for what you're trying to do to have a practical bird, you don't want show birds. So what can happen, I've heard this, is someone's like, oh, I've got these great show birds, they've got all the ribbons and they've won all the prizes, but they don't start laying till 8 months of age, and yep, the heat knocks them around, and they're just not a practical bird. They're just all show, no go. So my particular Australorps, I'm getting from a number of different sources of people that have had them running outside. They don't have show tickets or ribbons hanging off them. And I'm using different bloodlines and that, and I'm creating a pretty I'm trying to create a pretty rock solid breed. I'm not looking for purebred. I'm actually putting a tiny % of Plymouth Rock in there. So if you saw those photos before, I had a Plymouth Rock rooster. So I'm going to be developing bringing different bloodlines of Australorps of people that have them. So they're well adjusted to the climate. Ones that are hurt, they have problems with the heat killing them, they've probably come from a strain, well, I don't know where you're located, but they could have come from a strain of show birds, and they've sort of been inside and pampered and like a nice little puppy that lives on the end of your bed. Take him out in the hot sun, you'll have a heart attack. So it could just be the strain. What you could do if you're ever looking at getting back into it, get an incubator and buy some fertile eggs online, because they can post them to you, but ask some questions. Can you show me pictures of the parent stock? What's the lay rate? How do they handle the heat? And are they outdoors, and are they hardy and whatever? And find someone just selling some good rock solid Australorp eggs, and you could use that as stock. That might be of benefit. I'll see if I can get through all these questions. Okay, incubator. What do you use? Barotta, I've covered that. I showed you a picture of the brooder. What brand of chicken fence do you sell? I covered that. Premier One. Are you presenting the Getting Started with 60 Hens webinar again? Yes, I am. And I'm doing that, when is it? I'm doing that again tomorrow and the next day. What I'll do, I'll give you a link, because I did it last week and I had some great questions and a great response. And I said, well, I'm going to present it again. So I'll just paste the link, and then if you guys want to attend it, you can attend it. Just give me a moment. There we go. Yep, so it's a webinar, getting started with 60 laying hens. You mentioned buying groups in one of your training webinars. How do we set one of them up? I covered that when I talked about the coronavirus thing, I know, but before, of like setting up a buying group and having people buy off you. I'll try and do a dedicated training on that, because I've had people that do it and it's incredible. They're not chasing up invoices, they're getting paid up front. It's awesome. Can I still get the 12-month offer for the members area that you were talking about on the webinar last week? Yes, you can get that special offer. At the end, I'll share that link with you. I'll give you an offer where you can get a special deal and you get some one-on-one phone time with me and you get all the access to that. Okay, I bought some young chicks cheap and they are now 3 months old and getting bigger. I think I have 4 roosters and 8 chooks, mostly white, and 1 rooster looks to be light Sussex with necklace. I'm housing them at night in a mobile trailer set up with roosts and wire floor and have an electric poultry fence around it. They roam free in the paddock in daytime, protected by fence. I've seen a fox run across the paddock, touch the fence and run away. Phew. We're on acreage. I have a few questions. Okay, so that was just a bit of context. Yeah, this was the person, I think, that they said the fox ran up, touched the fence and ran away. I love hearing that. That fox, he'll go eat someone else's chickens or he'll go find something else for dinner. Sometimes I see a dropping which is a bit reddish. Is it concern and any natural cures? I'm putting a sip of apple cider vinegar in the water. No concerns. I've seen it from time to time. I haven't found it. I don't have knowledge on it that it's any concern. I say it with a disclaimer. I'm sure there's some poultry consultant from some university that'd say, oh, that means this, that, or the other. My thing is I put chickens on grass and I move them regularly so they're not living in their poo from weeks and weeks ago. And I've done that and I've taught that, and we've seen clients do that in multiple countries around the world, and we don't get feedback that they're all dying of disease. And again, the wildebeest of Africa, they're not dropping off and all dying, they're moving. So I wouldn't worry about the droppings. I'd keep an eye on it if it increases, but stuff like that, just keep it moving. When they start lay, what's the best way to clean eggs? Prevention's better than cure. I tell you that because I used to be the person cleaning an egg and it took 30 seconds each, and then you times that by 600 eggs and that equals no life. Didn't have a life. I was just cleaning eggs. It's like 2 a minute, but when you've got like 600 of them, that's 300 minutes. I don't know my maths, but that's a lot of hours. So work out a way. I don't know how many hens this person has. Work out a way where you're getting clean eggs. Hopefully it's a roll-away nesting box. That will do a world of good. If you do have to clean eggs, again, you got to read up your regulations. I'm not sure if they're for yourself or if you're selling them. You could maybe get a damp cloth and some apple cider vinegar and just wipe it off. Clean eggs. Number 3, I'd like to keep 1 rooster. At what age do I get rid of and sell or eat the other 3 roosters? Oh, that's right. You had 4 roosters. Whatever age, if you know they're roosters, you could process them now. There's no well, I'd probably say this. If they're already like 15, 16, 17 weeks of age, if you keep them much longer, they will get a bit bigger, but they're not going to double in size. They're already at a stage. But I've had times where I can see at 12 weeks they're a rooster and they're not necessarily a meat chicken, but I'll process them then, and they're like a little spring chicken spatchcock sort of size. So it might be a 1 kilo bird. So there's no time you have to get rid of them. Process them when you're ready and eat them. Send me a photo of the roast chook on the table. Homegrown, it's awesome. Daniel, what are the regulations around selling eggs in New South Wales? Okay, he's got another question. What are the regulations? First, I'm not a lawyer, So you look into that yourself. But from what I know, if you can sell less than 20 dozen a week. As I said, I don't know if you're wanting to start with 2,000 birds or 20 birds. I don't know. If you're selling less than 20 dozen a week, I think they say we would like you to be registered, but you don't need to have an audit. If you're selling more than 20 dozen a week, I think then you have to candle your eggs. So you shine a light through the eggs, doesn't have any cracks. No, you can sell it. An egg stamp, which you can get from New South Wales Safe Food. They can provide you with an egg stamp, which will be like NSW 316, which will be some random number. And you'll get audited probably once a year, maybe every 2 years from New South Wales Food Authority. That could probably cost you $500. They'll probably audit. They probably want to see, where are the chickens? Where are they housed? They're in a shed. Cool, thumbs up. Where are you packing the eggs? Cool, thumbs up. Like it's somewhere that's clean and hygienic. They don't really want you to be washing eggs. But if you go to New South Wales Safe Foods website selling eggs, like in their shell, they will have a reasonable amount of detail on there. Some of it might not be easy to read. I'll give you that. One of the pages, like, don't wash eggs. We don't want you washing eggs. Washing eggs is no good. Don't wash eggs. And you go, right, I've got it. And the next page go, if you do wash eggs, make sure the water temperature is this. And you're like, who wrote this? Literally says stuff like that. I can see people laughing there in the videos. Anyway, legislation. Behind closed doors and when there's no recorders on, I speak to some of these people from the DPI that work in the government, but they don't write the rules, and they go, yeah, it's sort of silly. How's this for a fun fact? In Europe, illegal to wash eggs. Don't wash eggs. You travel over there, you'll see a piece of poo or a bit of feather, like the eggs will be not muddy, but dirty. So it's illegal to wash eggs in Europe. America, illegal to sell eggs unless they're washed. Go figure. We're developed nations, aren't we? Anyway, so regulations around selling eggs. Cool. Is it a worthy return on investment if you had 50 to 100 chickens? I would say yes, but you're not going to earn $70,000 a year. Like, it's sort of, is it return on investment? What I will say is, one thing with chickens, they scale up and scale down. There's a lot of things that don't do that. For instance, if you're growing a crop of wheat, not that I've ever done that, but you have a big tractor that you sow all the wheat, and then you have a big header that pulls it all out. If you did that with 2 acres, not economical. You need a certain level of scale to say it's now economical. Chickens, on the other hand, you can scale them right down. So if you go 10 years ago, so 2010, and you spoke to an Australian pastured free-range egg farm with 400 birds, and you said, how did you start? 9 out of 10 times they would say, we had some backyard chickens, we had 20 of them, 30 of them. We had some excess eggs, so we started selling them to our friends at the tennis club or at preschool and that. And then we couldn't keep up with demand. And they were literally selling it in the car park as they saw their friends. And then word got around, so like, let's just get another 30 chickens. So they're up to 60 chickens, and they were profitable at 30. They were selling the eggs, they were paying for their feed, and they were profitable. They go to 60, they're still profitable. So there's no number of chickens to say what's not viable. It's probably more your systems and your infrastructure to, is it efficient? Like if you've got 60 chickens, all 3 per coop, and it takes you 8 hours a day to move them, well, not economical, but you've got a good system, it can be profitable. As I said, I'm not sure who asked this question. I don't have all that linked up. If you want to see some of the return on investment, is it worthy return on investment if you had just 50 to 100 chickens, yes. Join that webinar. It's in the notes there. I think you'll see it. Which I talk about some figures there. Let's go back here. Give them a swimming pool. We did a big dog pool and they loved it. I'm not sure what that's relation to, but that sounds fun. Okay. What do Litz clips look like? I might run out and grab a packet at the end. I'll try and wrap this all up in the next 20, 30 minutes. I can probably show you. Is there an ideal time of day to move chickens so it doesn't affect their laying? Yes and no. There's no... What I wouldn't do, I wouldn't move them just before the sun goes down. And if anyone's done that, you've learnt the hard way. If you move them just before the sun goes down, suddenly you might have a bunch of chickens in the hundreds and they all congregate in the spot where the chicken caravan was parked because they're like, that's where we were last night. So I'd move it before 3 p.m. So especially with young birds, when they first come on the lay and they're getting used to the chickens being moved, just move your caravan short distances. Don't move them 150 metres over the hill where they can't see it. You'll be having a head torch on that night and you'll be picking up chickens because they won't know what's going on. So no ideal time. I've seen farms do it at 5 a.m. or like first light, the chickens come out and they're down there with the headlights of the car. The chickens are out and they're moving them through. I've seen people do it before dawn. They've got all the doors locked down and then moving them. I've seen it done all the time. I just wouldn't do it late in the afternoon, so that sort of 2 hours before the sun goes down. I wouldn't do it then. Potentially, if they're older birds and they're used to the system, it could be fine. But yeah, in the morning, do that. So it doesn't affect their laying. If you know that the lay is really on hard between 8:30 and 9:30 or 10 o'clock, don't move them then, move them before or after. But most of the eggs, when I say most, probably 70% of the eggs, they're probably laid within like a 2-hour period. There'll be eggs laid before, eggs laid after, but most of them, just do it sort of before or after that. So if you want to figure 12:30 p.m. Do you have some tricks, some tips for training them to lay in your chicken caravan nesting boxes? Ours have been laying for just over a week, currently getting about 10 on the ground after spending about 4 hours each morning, putting them in the nesting boxes one by one. Any tips? It sounds like you're doing the right thing. You can get a perch and sit on so you've got a nesting box step that the chickens walk along. You could get one of the perches and sit on that bar and it goes right down to the ground so they can walk up there a bit easier. So sort of create some ladders up to that. You will get a few ground eggs when they first start. You just want to make sure that sort of decreases over time. If you haven't already, have a listen to Nest Box Training. It's one of my podcasts. Greengrasseggfarming.com. Nest Box Training. If it's tomorrow and you can't find it, send us an email. Go to our website, send us an email. Say, Daniel spoke about this Nest Box Training podcast. Where is it? Tony will get the email, or Ciara, and they'll just shoot you through the link. In the heat, it was 38 degrees and high humidity. I think that was in relation to you had a swimming pool. We did it. The big dog loved it. Cool. Let's rip through the rest of these questions. Okay. Have raised 200 chicks from day old in early October. They are now coming on the lay. Is there any issues with bringing chickens on the lay now as the days are getting shorter? If yes, is there anything we can do to help bring them on? What lay rate should we expect if we're starting this time of year? I think I covered this earlier. They'll just come on naturally. There's nothing really you'll have to do. Just make sure they feed. You've got some feed which is 18% protein, but there's nothing you need to sort of do. Does the initial lay rate increase slowly or do they come on in a hurry? I think this is the same question as before. Was there any reason to set up nets in a circle? I've answered that. What is your recommendation markup when wanting to sell your eggs to a local butcher? For example, how much remuneration should the owner expect if the carton was $7, for example? So I think what you're saying, how much markup should the retailer put on? What I've found, retailers, they'll work out themselves. It's rare that I've sold to a shop where they say, hey, what's the recommended retail price? They'll sort of know it with their clientele and profit and based on their rent and whatever. What I've found, a lot of them are $2 or $2.50 dozen. It's not like they double it or anything. So if you're selling eggs to them for $6 a dozen, you'll often see them on the shelves for $8 a dozen, $8.50 a dozen. So that's a general statement. I do remember selling eggs for, I think that was $7 a dozen wholesale. This was a few years ago, and it was to one of the premium butcher shops in Bondi Beach, Australia, and they were selling them for $12 a dozen. So what was that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They put $5 markup on a $7 dozen. But I think that particular butchery could do it because it was, I think it had like a $300,000 shop fit out, and it wasn't a very big shop. And it had my eggs and the other most expensive eggs in Australia. And I think that's just what they were, one of the absolute best, most expensive eggs. And at the time I had certified organic milk fed eggs with cracked grain that was cracked within 3 days. Like I developed a very, very premium egg. So, but other than that store, most stores just do about $2 or $2.50 a dozen. I hope that answers your question, or if you're asking what profit should you, the farmer, have. If so, just throw it in the question box. With markets being shut down, how do you see the coronavirus affecting sales of pastured eggs, and what avenue in these circumstances do you think will work to our advantage? Home delivery, buying groups, selling local. This is the brilliant time to enter that market. I'd still go to some of the local retailers because they might not have as much supply, or because everyone's buying stuff off the shelves, they might say, hey, we want some extras. So, yeah, I would be just keeping active on that, to go talking to the local suppliers. I'm a local business. I've got some eggs. Are you after some? Or trying to set up some of those local buying groups. How long can we store eggs for? I remember it being a random amount of days. There's no, as far as I know, there's no regulation on what use by date or how long you can sell eggs for. I think when I actually questioned someone in a department to say, like, is there a regulation, like years ago, their answer was sort of interesting and good. It was like, you're the producer, that should be up to you to determine, rather than a government regulation saying this is what it is. And I'm like, that's actually a good answer, rather than the government dictating to you this is what it needs to be. But it also didn't give me a clear answer. What I've seen, as for the question was about like amount, how long can you store eggs for? So whether it's store eggs before you sell them or a use by date. whether they're the same thing or different. But use by date, I've often seen people put 6 weeks on them. I found when I put 6 week use by date on my eggs, I would have retail stores ordering 2 boxes every fortnight. So they get like 2 invoices a month, opposed to 1 box every week. For consistency on my end, I would prefer a lot of stores ordering 1 box a week than a handful of stores ordering 2 a fortnight, because this big week of sales and it goes up and down and whatever. I found by shortening my use by date, they would buy more frequently, they would put them on the shelf, and even if they're close to the use by date, someone's not cracking it open and it's a watery egg because it's been sitting in a cool room for a month. That was sort of my theory on it. So I think ended up, I'm not sure how many days is 6 weeks, but I think I used to do my use by dates at 44 days or 45 days or something. I remember coming up with a figure on it. But if anyone else wants to throw in the chat box how many days you use by date or that, but how long can they be stored for? I know 6 weeks. I know someone that literally, she worked at an egg farm and she traveled Australia. I think she did it in like 7 weeks or something. And she had a little fridge in her camper van, and because she worked at an egg farm, she just took a heap of eggs. She was going on a budget. And I think she still had eggs when she came back like 6 or 7 weeks later. She might not have gone all around Australia, but it was a massive trip, a long way. And she said they were fine, and they were in a camper van, like going up and down, and I think she had them in a fridge. So, but yeah, I know like commercially they'll store them for 6 weeks. Okay. Why were the nets in a circle, not a square? Sorry, missed that answer on the webinar. Just easy to set up. So if you're only doing 2 fences, you can set them up in whatever shape you want. It was probably more on the webinar to show you have an opening here, the other opening's there, you move them through, showing the process of moving them through into the next fence. But if you've got them in an orchard or whatever situation, you can do whatever shape you want. You just want to make sure when your shed gets to the end of the paddock, whether it's a circle or a square, it's landing at an area where you can open up the 2 fences and take them into another 2 fences. With 450 chickens, I normally just do them in a square because it's just, you pull them out straight. It's quite easy. I'm planning to set up to sell to retailers. I read somewhere that retailers prefer to deal with businesses set up as companies rather than sole traders. I've already answered that one. I haven't found any difference. Is there a preferred temperature to store eggs before packing and selling? My personal opinion, no. I think food regulations just say stable temperature. So a lot of packing sheds are like air conditioner on a thermostat. Please read up your regulations, because I know I could be talking to people in different states and there could be people on here from different countries as well. But stable temperature. So if you've got an aircon that cuts in, if it goes over 21 degrees or something, that probably should be fine. I've heard things over the years, but I don't think there's any data. I've heard people say, I store them at 16 degrees, whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's anything on that. I think that's the end of the questions there. I did have another question. I had questions coming on my inbox and then social media and then all over. I can't see where it is, but they did say, like, can we just, if we're packing eggs, can we pack them out just in our kitchen, or do we need a dedicated egg packing shed? It'll come down to numbers. If you're doing it that like less than 20 dozen a week, which I think like is the New South Wales regulation, I'm sure you can just pack them on your kitchen bench. If you're going to be audited by the New South Wales Food Authority and you're going to do some numbers, they're not going to want to see it done on the kitchen bench, because they go, well, it's the same kitchen bench that you're feeding the kids Weet Bix and everything else that happens in the kitchen. They're going to want to see a dedicated area that you pack out your eggs in. So it probably comes down to numbers, but I just want to say that because I don't want you to fully deck out a dedicated egg packing room and you go, I'm only going to sell 15 dozen a week. And I'm like, you probably didn't need to go to that measure. I think I'm wrapping up now. If we've got any other questions, throw them in there and I'll get that person. They wanted they wanted that deal on the members area. I'm feeling generous, so I'll share it. Any other questions? Pop them in while I find this other thing. Okay, so that link there, I've put in the chat box. That's we've got a Chicken Caravan members area. Probably there could be a bunch of you that are already on there. So in there, if you want more mentoring from me to like send questions in and get some more advice and coaching and whatever, that is available. It's $197 for a full year. That one actually comes with a 30-minute one-on-one call with me. There's a lot of valuable trainings and whatever, and I can really help people. Yeah, you can ask me questions and I can help you in there. And definitely with a lot of farms and this sort of coronavirus, and they might have to look at different distribution channels, I'm happy to help you in there. So it's probably the cheapest coaching business advisory package you'll ever buy. It's less than $200 for the whole year. And the reason I've made, some of you that have followed me for years, the reason I've made it so cheap, because some other packages were like, or consulting were sort of in the thousands of dollars. I'm now doing more work with not-for-profit organizations like World Vision and other developing nations. So I'm trying to get my training to more people and more affordable. That's why I'm making it affordable, because there's some people in other nations that they just can't afford sort of $1,000 a year in consultancy. So that's why that's that price. I'm just going to go back through the questions. I've heard that by cleaning the eggs with water that it can affect the eggs. Is that true? Yes, it is true. It takes the outer membrane off the egg. So where possible, you want to keep water away from your eggs. So yes, it is true. Commercially, when they wash an egg, the eggs get washed through chlorine, and chlorine, to the extent it smells stronger than like a commercial swimming pool. Like if you go into one of these egg packing sheds, the big ones that like do 60,000 eggs an hour, like a caged egg farm, the chlorine, yeah, it's really strong. And anyway, it comes through that, they get blow dried, and then they get re-oiled because they want to put a membrane on it, which I sort of find interesting. They've just gone through this chlorine machine so strong that you can smell it, and they've dried it off in probably less than a minute, and then they're coating it with oil to seal everything in. So I'm like, you've just sealed all that chlorine into your egg. And then some people say, I just don't understand why these farm eggs taste so much better than the supermarket eggs. Little do I tell them, it's probably because they taste like chlorine. Anyway,